Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to David Furumoto. Thank you so much.
All right, so I have a very short period, and what I decided to present to you folks today is a very short introductory thing to kabuki techniques. Now, excuse my very bad calligraphy. I'm not a very good penman. This is the present characters which are used to write kabuki. So song, dance, and skill. But we go way back to when kabuki was first being formed. The verb had a very different meaning then. Kabuku was something that was tilted or off-center. So it was a way of saying, oh, this is really cool. And the other irony of this whole thing is, of course, kabuki is credited really with being started by a woman by the name of Okuni. And today, most of the professional kabuki troupes, it's all male now, okay? There exist forms that in the countryside where women are playing roles in kabuki plays and whatnot, but as far as the real mainstream professional kabuki theater, it's still all males at this point, except in the rare occasions when they're having some play that has a lot of kids in it. Gradually, because they've run out of boys, the girls have been coming in to play these little children on the stage. All right, so as I said, I wanted to concentrate today more on things about kabuki that are the physicality of the different characters and also the voice. Music is very important, of course, and dance is, of course, very important. And so tonight, one of the dances I'll be performing, well, they're both actually coming from kabuki theater, but the main one that is really strongly kabuki-based is Tomoyako dance, which is the second number that I'll be doing. Anyway, there are many different types of character roles in kabuki, but they sort of break down into about 3 or 4 main types. And the biggest thing, I guess, is that people are always amazed by the onagata, the actors that portray the female roles. Now, physically, if you're playing a female role on the kabuki stage, the point is you're trying to make yourself look smaller than the other male actors on stage who are playing the male characters. So the first thing that starts happening is that you're going to see people bringing their knees together. They're kind of closing their knees together, and the feet are like this. They also will tuck the elbow into the side. Again, what this does is that it just creates this very soft line. And walk, as I say, if I'm playing, say, a delicate princess, you're going to see this kind of walk. Conversely, if I'm playing a woman from the country or who is having to do a lot of hard menial things around the town, she's going to bounce with, or she's going to walk with quite a bit more bounce. I mean, it's going to be more like. Okay, so there's a little bit of that going on. All right, now male roles. The biggest one that all the world seems to know about more are what we call the aragoto roles. These are the superheroes, the supervillains of the kabuki stage. These are the ones that have the very elaborate, large kumadori makeup that's on their face. And their walk, of course, because they're supposed to be super strong and heroic, so they have this very strong position that they do. Again, it's that sort of, we're showing off how strong we are. And part of that is, they're not in a hurry usually. I mean, they're taking their time. Don't mess with me. Okay. Another part of these strong male characters. And actually all throughout kabuki, you'll see this. It's something that we call the mie. Okay, now a mie is coming in at times of great tension in a scene. And of course, with the arigoto characters, they can be quite large. And they're usually accompanied by these wood blocks called suke. And David is helping me out today by graciously playing these for me. So what happens with these is that the typical mie thing would be the actor will set their body first, step out, right? Now, people are always asking, what's with this cross-eye thing? Okay, this goes back to the foundation of this particular type of role. This arigoto style is credited with being started by the Ichigawa Danjuro family. Now, we are now up to Danjuro the 13th right now. So there have been 13 generations of this acting family holding that name. It's a very important name in the kabuki world. The first Danjuro started the thing, and the interesting history behind this pose is that this family was a very stout believer of the Shingon sect of Buddhism. And Shingon sect places the guardian spirit Fudo as the main deity to protect things. And usually he's pictured with a rope in one hand, a sword in the other, and he's usually got a very ferocious look on his face. All right, so that is where they say Danjuro the First got this idea. The other thing that had to do with the Kumidori makeup goes back again to one of the early Danjuros. And there was a jealous actor that was on stage with him. And Danjuro is waiting for his entrance, but the actor is refusing to give him his cue line. So if you're familiar with the play Shibaraku, what started happening was Danjuro was getting very, very angry. And he started yelling from the back, Shibaraku! 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 And at the same time, he noticed that the blood vessels on his face, because he was so angry, had kind of swollen up. And this gave him, he was, oh, this is interesting. So that's supposedly where the Kumidori stems from. Okay, now I'm going to get to some vocal stuff. And I'm going to do some examples, hopefully 3 we'll have time for. The first character I'm going to try to do for you is from, well, 2 of them are from the play Skeroku, the Flower of Edo. The first one is Angemaki. Now, Angemaki is one of the top courtesans in the Yoshiwara area. So she has this wonderful speech where she basically has told the old samurai, I'm not interested in you. I have a young lover. Go away. Okay, stop bothering me. All right, so here is Angemaki. You are a tiresome old man, Ikkyu. Do you think I fear your anger because I give my love secretly to Skeroku? Do you wish to cut me down with your sword here in front of everyone? You may, but I will not take you as my lover. I am Angemaki of the House of 3 Harbors. I love a man, Skeroku. Since I am bewitched by the devil, possessed by his spirit, as you say, I shall revile you with a devil's tongue. Compare Skeroku and Ikkyu side by side. Here is the one, a young stag. Here is the other, an old crab. One, the wide ocean. One, a mire of mud. One deep, one shallow. Between the prostitute's customer and the courtesan's beloved. Dark is the courtesan's life, bereft of her beloved. But in her darkest life, in her darkest night, she could not mistake Skeroku for Ikkyu. Now we're going to switch to the hero, Skeroku. Okay?
No one but an ass sets foot in Yoshiwara not knowing my name, so hear it well. Write my name 3 times on the palm of your hand as you pass through the quarter's great gates, and no woman can refuse you. Do I appear to you small? My exploits are legend, talked about by everyone, from the charcoal-selling hags of Hachioji to the toothless rustics in the fields. In the gay quarters, I am the topic of gossip over pickled plums and tea. I spend without limit, and the hell with a price. A headband of purple, the pride of Edo, dyed in Edo, binds my hair, the strands of which, as you look through them, frame a face which, if it graced an ukiyo-e print, would make that picture famous in Japan. Who does not know this dragon in the water growing stronger as his enemies increase? From the carousers of the pleasure houses of Golden Dragon Mountain to the grim image of the ferocious god Fudo in Meguro, all Edo's 808 districts does not hide the man who wears the crest of peonies, this dweller among the cherry blossoms of Yoshiwara, this youthful Skeroku, Ongemoki Skeroku. Bow before this face, worship it. Okay, I'm almost out of time. Okay, one more little thing here. There's always been a great argument. Okay, I attended the University of Hawaii, and the strength of the University of Hawaii is that they try to do authentic kabuki plays, but in English, and as authentically as possible. So costumes, music, all of this stuff. There have been some arguments. Is it possible for you to do English kabuki? So I'm going to give you a very short example. So I'm going to use the Japanese text first. So this is from a play called Narukami the Thunder God. And in this scene, Narukami, who is this very, very strong, powerful Buddhist esoteric, has been kind of seduced by a young, beautiful lady from the court, because Narukami has hid all the rain. The gods of rain are all trapped. So the land is experiencing terrible drought. So this speech happens right after he realizes he's been had, in a way. So Japanese first. Darakusta. Darakusta. So if I do that in English, it will come out something like this. I am damned. I am damned. Still sinking, though falling into hell, though damned, though sinking, what do I care, what do I care? Buddha himself was first immortal. He had children. He had Prince Sita. Say yes to me, say yes to me, refuse me, and I shall devour that beautiful white throat and carry you to hell with me. Well, what is your answer? Okay. Parting shot in the dance tonight, the second dance, Sambaso, there's a description in the program, but I don't have the lantern that is used for this dance. Now, the footman would always accompany the samurai lord with this big lantern. I mean, it stands about this tall. So tonight, when you see me, this will be standing in for the lantern. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have time for one question. Who would like to be the magic questioner of David? Yes, please, sir. And the microphone is right there for you.
When watching Japanese films, English translations will often include a lot of crude language, which doesn't exist necessarily in Japanese. In these translations in Kabuki, how do you go about conveying that, or what's your thought on that?
We don't shy away from, I mean, the Japanese swear words might be a little bit different, but I can throw, I apologize to the people that speak Japanese in the audience, but I mean, some of my favorites are Kisama. What's another one? It's escaped my head right now. At any rate, there's several. I mean, and they'll try. Blockhead is one, you know. So there's several words that get used. And as I say, if you got plays happening in basically the licensed quarter, where all the brothels and all of those things are, you're going to run into some kind of adult situations all the time.
All right. So thank you. So, and there will be time again at the end for more questions, but I'm going to pass it to David Wheeler, who's going to speak about his set with Yoko.
Good afternoon. Really looking forward to this. And thank you all for coming for the pre-concert. It makes for a long concert, but at least you'll have more context. So what I want to do is talk little bit about the instruments that we're going to perform for you, and how that all works. Now, about kabuki, which David Furumoto just talked about and demonstrated, that all came from a woman named Okuni. And this is Okuni dancing on the banks of the Kamo River in Kyoto. This became the rage, and it was from that kabuki evolved. And that happens to be the cover of Dr. William P. Malm's book, Traditional Japanese Music and Musical Instruments. We're celebrating him with all of these events. So I just wanted to remind you about this cool book. If you don't know yet, you can learn a lot about what David just told you, what Yoko and I are going to do by looking at the book. Next. So these are the shakuhachi playing. Title of my 3-minute talk is Blind Men and Monks, Kengyo and Komuso. So I'm going to start with the komuso. These are the Zen monks who played the shakuhachi as a form of religious meditation, a sonic meditation. And they had maybe, and you can read Malm's book about this, but they had maybe questionable origins. Where did they come from? Maybe they were on the losing side of the battles that led to the beginning of the Edo period in 1603. And so they're samurais that don't have a job. And a samurai without a job is a good thing because they still have a sword. Now what are they going to do? Well, the government came up with this idea of put down your sword, become a Zen monk, and we'll hide your identity. They didn't have witness protection programs and facial surgery back then, so they were allowed to wear that basket and hide their face as they traveled the countryside playing their flutes. And that's the music that the shakuhachi evolved into in the Edo period, and that's still the classical music of the shakuhachi, the solo version. Next. The ensemble version, and that guy on the right is one of my teachers, and this is from Mom's book, was these 3 instruments, the koto, the shamisen, and the shakuhachi. And that's the music, some music that Yoko and I will be doing for you today. And Yoko is an amazing musician. She can play the shamisen, she can play the koto, and sing. But she can't do all 3 of them at the same time. So, sorry about that. We're not going to have the full trio today. Next. So this music, this is a blind master koto player. There's a tradition, a social welfare tradition, where if you weren't blind, you weren't allowed to make a profession of being a koto player. And this all evolved from biwa players, a wooden string lute that was predated the shamisen, the instrument you're going to see in just a second, and they were also blind. And then it became, so if you're blind, you can make this a profession, but otherwise you can only be an amateur. Next. And going back to kabuki, the shamisen, up on the right you can see that, but it was used in the kabuki theater, and so you can see some very elaborate dancers in the front, but this is, you can learn everything about Japanese history from this period by looking at woodblock prints. There's pretty much a print of everything there. So this is, I brought this in just to show you how shamisen is sometimes used on the kabuki theater, but we're using it in a different context. Next. This is an interesting image, Ichikawa Danjuro. What generation is the current Ichikawa Danjuro?
13.
You're not supposed to let everyone. I was just giving you a little quiz. That's okay. Yeah, he's the 13th. So 13 generations ago. And this one is can't say. It doesn't say when. But in this role, he's playing a shamisen. So even the actors would learn how to play the shamisen. Shamisen is just taking over Japan. It was all over the place. And so the shamisen that Yoko and I are accessing is the one that the kengyo, the blind masters, were using. And it was kind of like chamber music. Next. And this is an example of, these are all three women, so they're not pros, but they're having fun. And you can even see a woman over there playing the shakuhachi, which at that point in history was very rare. The shakuhachi was almost always played only by men. But this gives an idea of what it was like, the scene in pretty fancy courtesans' quarters, because they got a lot of tortoiseshell in their hair. You know they got money. And they're probably being paid a lot for this. But what we're going to have today is more like the next slide. So this is kind of the scene in the way this chamber music was played. It would be in an audience like this, and you can see it's a pretty big audience. And I just happened to be curious, so I counted them. There's 71 people in that audience. We hope to have more tonight. I think I see about 70 right here today. This is great. And so you can see there's the shakuhachi player and the koto player and the shamisen player. And you see this is in 1792. So it's 200 and almost 40 years ago. 340 years ago. And you can see that they're wearing kimonos a lot like this, or a lot like what David is wearing. So that's how we can know that this is the kind of dress that was actually being worn way back then. And then, next slide. This one, I just zoomed it in so you could see everything that's going on here. And if you look, you can see all those bald heads with their little top knots hanging off the back there. All those people are facing right up to the stage, that are near the stage. And then as you get back, people are having more fun. And way back here, they're having a party. And there's eating and drinking going on. And by the way, you're not allowed to eat or drink in the hall. So, and if you really need to party, please go out in the lobby. Or join us at the party afterwards. But I'm not even getting a time thing yet. I'm good, right? Okay. So it's interesting how we had these blind people, a very early case of social welfare that facilitated the development of this music. And then also the convergence of that with masterless samurai who gradually evolved into this thing of embracing Zen and becoming Zen monks, putting down their swords and picking up the bamboo flute. And these masterless, there was a thing said about them that if you're going to be a Zen monk, you can't play music. What you're doing is not music, it's meditation. The shakuhachi is not an instrument. It's not a musical instrument. It's an instrument of the Dharma. So there were these government edicts saying Zen players can't play, shakuhachi can only be played in the Zen context. And they kept republishing this edict year after year after year, which tells you what? It was still happening. And it really grew in the end of the Edo period as we got into the modern times. And now the shakuhachi has become a kind of just part of the ensemble. And that's the way it is. And that also helped both the shakuhachi and the koto and the shamisen come into the modern area. And they're still popular among various Japanese instruments as art music. There are being compositions written for them by both Japanese and non-Japanese composers all over the world. And actually, we're going to play a modern piece also for you tonight that's a reflection of that kind of music. I don't have anything in particular else to say. I'm happy to entertain questions. She was just about to. Any questions? Yes?
Yesterday, I was one of your beginners.
Hang on. You're live around the world.
Yesterday, I was temporarily one of your beginners up on stage, and there was somebody next to me with experience who was showing how challenging it was to find the sweet spot with your breath, your breath flow.
Right?
It was just kind of intriguing.
Yeah. Well, finding that.
Again, the music, sure.
Yep. Well, I think, and that's the kind of thing that when I teach people, in that workshop yesterday with 20 flutes and everyone trying, and some people having great success, some people kind of poached in having played the flute before, and it's very similar, but experiencing that and playing with it is important.
And for what it's worth, I wanted to sort of buzz it. I could get a sound by kind of buzzing into it, which is not the way it was supposed to be done, but it's another way of getting a sound.
Yeah, yeah. And every experience like that is invaluable. And that's the kind of thing that Professor Malm would love. People trying things out. And so that enthusiastic curiosity is invaluable. Yes?
Who is the fourth character on the platform in this woodcut?
Oh, they're making sure that the candle is lit so people can see what's going on. Indoors, and they didn't have electricity, so you're depending on candles. And of course, any image like this, they're kind of fudging with reality a little bit. The artist is, I've never had a house that packed. I wonder if they did. You never know. But it's really exciting to me to find this. This is an annotation of Jiuta songs published in 1792, and that's about when the piece Yoko and I are going to play, Zangetsu, The Lingering Moon, was written. So it really is very contemporaneous to what the music we're going to do today. Yes?
I was just wondering, like 1792, like what were the class of people at that point? Of three musicians and of the audience? Like, was it a mixture and did they pay? Was it free, etc.? Who sponsored it?
That's a very good question. And it continued to go on, so certainly there was enough of an economic benefit to the performers to do it. I don't think they were rich. I do think most of the people in this audience are in the merchant class, which was the people with money in that time. They weren't the serfs of the feudal lords, but they weren't samurais. And even samurais were more committed to their masters and didn't have much money. It was the merchant class that had the money, and so that's who these customers are. And you can tell that by the kind of kimonos you're seeing there. They all look pretty good. Not quite as good as mine, but. Okay, well, thank you, and I'll see you at the end of the show.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to pass the microphone to Kyoto, who I see making an excellent entrance from the back with a demo, so awesome. And look forward to this. We've got some instruments and actually the whole trio here, so awesome.
I also was under the impression it was a round table, so we're switching gears here. So we are...
Use this as much as you can.
Okay, so I won't play then. Sure, I can talk. どうぞ。最初開いていいです。Hi, I'm Kyoto Aoki. I'm here with Mayumi Aoki and Neil Ducklow. The three of us, we are based in Chicago. Our Taiko group that I lead is Tsukasa Taiko. And we are under our larger nonprofit organization called Asian Improv Arts Midwest. And we are a broader arts organization. Our core focus is three Japanese traditional arts disciplines. So we have a Taiko group. We have a Japanese traditional dance in the Fujima-ryu style called Shubukai. And then we also have a shamisen group called Toyoakimoto. And that's actually the start of my specific lineage and my sister here, so we're related. My father was born into an okiya household in Japan, and that's in English we translate as a geisha household in Yotsuya, Sanchome in Tokyo, and so he was born into the family of musicians that accompanied the geisha dancers. So we're actually prelude or intermission between while the dancers are getting ready or in the end. So there's actually a lot of improvisation that's happening in the music, and the kind of music that I am being passed down. I'm the fifth generation of a shamisen player, so I actually have a stage name when I play shamisen. Toyoaki Chisose is my shamisen name, but today I'm Kyoto Aoki playing taiko. And Mayumi is also Toyoaki Toho, but she's Mayumi Aoki playing taiko. Different disciplines, but my father also was, along with his Okiya tradition in a theater group in underground Tokyo. So he was around folks like Abe Kobo and Teshigara Hiroshi, who are writers and directors and all of those peers in avant-garde works in Tokyo. And his youth theater group was called Gintenkai, and they were doing theatrical presentations of Taiko. So not a Taiko group, not a music group, but it was a theater troupe that was presenting Taiko as an art form. And so part of our Tsukasa Taiko group, now after he took over as artistic director, we are continuing this legacy. And separately, I'm also a musician and a visual artist. So my instrument is taiko, so I play taiko. I'm coming from a traditional background. I still play traditional context as well, but I'm a contemporary musician. So I play on my own. I play with drum sets. I play with electronic musicians, with performance artists and dancers and the like. So our organization in Chicago is really meant to keep the traditional art forms, but also support the contemporary arts practices, since that's where my father and I kind of operate. And since David-san had talked about skiroku, I'll talk a little bit about that. Since I didn't have it in the plan for tonight, but we can put it in, our skiroku song. But the standard taiko stand here, we have a flat stand. So we have a taiko is the general term for the Japanese drum. This is a taiko. This is also a taiko. The large drums are also taiko. That would be o-daiko, chu-daiko, and shime-taiko. So it's variations of that. They are, of course, all made from wood with animal hide on both sides. And the most basic way to play is flat here. And like all folk musics, traditions around the world, we sing everything. So it's kuchishoga. So the middle sound is going to be don. That was don-don. And we can play the rim. We can play the rim. That's going to be kara. Or you put it together, don kara ka. And then really important in Japanese arts is all the spaces that you don't see and all the things that you don't actually hear. So that's what, in English we say ma in this really complex understanding of Japanese space-time, which is more cyclical than linear, et cetera, et cetera. But we also sing this. So we can play don kara don. Or we can play don sto don. Right, so I'm just singing the don, don. Or if you're studying music, Western music, we can play don, 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 don. And to make that your upbeat is sit don, sit don, sit don, sit don. Which if you're not singing the su, it sounds exactly the same. Yes. Yeah, so actually, this musicality is so, so important. And I think for us, especially because we're coming from theater and taiko in art practice, that it's not just rhythm and percussion. I think that's a really common misunderstanding, right? It's, you see a lot of taiko played in a Western percussive drumline kind of style. And musically, that's not really Japanese music. You're just using Japanese instruments. And so part of retaining this musicality is you can put the taiko stand on an angle. This is actually a skiroku stand. Because if you remember, you saw David-san standing. I'm not a dancer, so excuse me. Miyumi actually is. But instead of standing here, you have a little diagonal stand. So if we move the taiko to this skiroku style, I'm going to move the shime here too. Then now, you can stand. There's a lot of ways you can stand and move flat, but on an angle stand, you're going to also have this angle that's continuing from the stand here on a diagonal. Sometimes we casually call it naname-dai, which is an angled stand, diagonal stand. So if you stand like this, now the choreography and the arm movement becomes so much more important and actually part of the musical phrasing. So maybe we do a little bit of yanagi. So now, sorry. And now, because we're on an angle, we can go from left to the middle to the right side in a way in which you cannot do on the flat stand. And then what happens is you're not hitting all the time, right? You're moving, and the space in between actually is visually important and also sonically. So we also think about musical phrasing, which is why really fast percussive taiko is kind of cool and exciting to watch on the old taiko. And that's typically, I think, how it's presented on the commercial stage often. And that's wonderful entertainment. But I think musically there's much more opportunity to do things in this way. So this is just connecting from David-san because he was showing skiroku here. So today maybe we will play a little bit of this for you all later in the evening. I'll shift the program a little bit for you. I got a 3-minute warning. Yes, so there's another way in which we can do, we have a piece called Hachobori. Hachobori actually is an area in Tokyo. If you see a train station or neighborhood Hachobori. And this one is a little bit more advanced skiroku style. And this involves the flipping of the bachi. Gamatte. And a jumping. So, there we go. So, okay, thank you. Yes, you see the risks that happen. Thank you very much. Yeah. And like I mentioned before, we can sing everything. So I'm just gonna air bachi for you. For here, we're gonna go ka, do, go, do, go, do, go, do, go, do, go, do, do. And we know so, re. We know the choreography is a flip here. So so, re, do, go, do, do, so, re, do, go, do, don, don, kuru, don, kuru, do, don, do, ka, do, go, don. So if you know Japanese, the kuru, just look at this. Kuru is going to be here. Don, kuru, like this. And so it becomes part of this phonetic representation of the songs. And this is how we really learn everything and we practice everything. But yes. I think that will explain. And the songs we're playing today are all original Gintenkai compositions. They're from 1970s that my father was playing as a teenager. He's taught it to us. He's kind of remembered these when you sing things over and over again, and he's jotted his own notes. And we've kind of reinterpreted them so that we can continue playing, and I teach them to my students here today. So we'll have a variation, a short suite of original Gintenkai composition. So thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you so much. Any specific questions for the three of them? And I gotta say, I'm really appreciative of your improvisatory pivot here to bring these. That's really awesome. It's great to get to hear these in this kind of context with some explanation. Can I actually? Did you play that one at all? Would you mind to demonstrate that one? And maybe what was the kind of more specific name of that one?
This is a shime taiko. Oh, I'll play. This is a shime taiko, and it's coming from the word shimeru, which is to tighten, because it's tightened by ropes. So you don't actually tune the instruments, but you can tighten this one to get your desired pitch. And these are set for you, and you kind of break them in. As the skin gets more in use, the sound gets lower and lower, and then you just have to get them reskinned. But this sound is dondon. ちょっとどんどん打ってみて. I lied, I'm talking, so I'm gonna... that's okay. And we change our bachi to a lighter, thinner one. And this one is a little more high pitched because the body is shorter, so we sing it ten ten. Or teretsuku ten ten. Like this. So this is in the most standard setup, this would be a G or the timekeeper, and then you would have the melody playing on the larger drums.
Great, cool, thank you. Awesome. It's totally fine to just keep these here for right now. I mean, they look really cool. So, yeah, and I think it's something we need to look for in the Stearns collection pretty soon here. So let's make a note of that, Katie. But yeah, any specific questions for the Taiko ensemble? In that case, I'm going to kind of just open it up for just general questions. And, you know, maybe this is where maybe the roundtable spirit might come in a little bit, because the three of you are probably among the most aware of what each other's doing, and it'd be fun to hear perspectives on things. I think just immediately hearing your comments, like the things that David said, inspiring to you quickly, and the fact that you might consider changing the program at 6:30 or so is like, that is very admirable, and I'm highly respectful of that. So yeah, David?
Well, I don't have anything in particular to say. I thought I was going to stand up here and answer a question, but this is the thing I was kind of talking about earlier, that you can see all kinds of music and musical instruments depicted in both Dr. Malm's book, but also in woodblock prints of the ukiyo-e, prints of the floating world from that period, because they depict everything. And you can see taiko players, and you can see drummers in kabuki, and you can see shamisen players in kabuki, and of course dancers all over. And we're all connected. All of these instruments have been in Japan for a long time. Actually, the shamisen is the most recent, but it came in 1562 to Osaka. So the most recent was the shamisen. But the taikos, they came in with the shakuhachi and the koto way back in the Nara period, in probably the 6th or 7th centuries. So really a long time ago. And then they evolved both. They came out of the orchestra that is called gagaku, that they came to Japan with, and then evolved in all these different ways and are still evolving. The taiko, the whole idea like kumi taiko, the modern taiko that kind of started in the middle of the 20th century that we think of. When you hear taiko, that's what you think of. A bunch of drummers together, a group of drummers together performing. But as you just heard, that's not a very old thing. But so all these drums are used in kabuki, they're used in other theater forms, and we're just sharing all our different talents. The shakuhachi has evolved. The 5-hole shakuhachi that I'm going to be performing tonight is kind of the traditional that's been like that for probably 500 years. But now there are 7-hole shakuhachis, 6-hole shakuhachis, and there are titanium shakuhachis. So things keep evolving in many different ways. And that's something that all these different instruments share, these lineages.
Just one little note that I want to make sure gets out. Remember that so many of the instruments that you see in Japanese traditional music being used comes from places like China, Korea, and also Okinawa. So, you know, Japan was not just, you know, solidly isolation. There was a great deal of stuff going on between the Asian countries. And it just so happens that Japan lucks out because they're sort of like what's the term? They're like a cul-de-sac. I mean, all of this stuff that was coming through Asia comes to Japan, and beyond Japan, you run out of real places where people are. So I just wanted to add that, so.
Yeah, so it's a huge repository for instruments that, for example, the instruments that are played in the Gagaku Orchestra that came to Japan 1,500 years ago, a lot of those instruments don't exist in China anymore. So it's also a repository. Yes? Question? Oh, in the back first.
You know, I'm always interested in the passing down of traditions, especially in diaspora. And I just wondered, in example, like taiko's really cool, so like, of course you would do it. But just in general, was it assumed because your family was a musician's family that you too would follow the musical tradition, or did you kind of have to be convinced, you and your siblings?
So was I expected to play music? No, it just happened. And I have a very unique background. I think even my father being born in Naokia is very unique, even in Japan. And that doesn't, there's only a certain number of people that still carry on that tradition today too. And he's also a jazz musician, creative musician in Chicago. So I already grew up seeing him on stage, and before I realized it was also playing on stage. And my younger brother is between my sister and I. He actually started taiko first, And I think he just had a lot of energy in the house, and my parents gave him a little taiko, not a taiko, but a plastic drum from Toys R Us, and broke it many times. He was like, well, what drum skin is not going to break? And it was a taiko. And there weren't taiko groups necessarily in Chicago that until we joined a different one later, but that my father felt like he could join. So he just brought my brother around to improvise around Chicago's professional stages, and I joined him. And that's actually a very traditional methodology that young kids kind of grow up seeing their parents perform, and then you actually learn on stage. So at 7 and 4 years old, we were told to show up, and I'm supporting my brother. I'm on the shiben mostly, and my brother's playing taiko for the set. And yeah, that's kind of how I started, and not really understanding what it was and what it meant, and I continued to play, and now I teach. And you know, as I got older, I realized that I was following the path of an artist, and I suppose a musician now. And now I can reflect on the importance of maintaining this lineage that I have. But it was never, I think, a pressure that I consciously felt or remembered.
Thank you.
Oh, it could be to you at the next one.
So you said that at University of Hawaii, there's conversations about whether kabuki can be done in English.
Well, not so much the at the University of Hawaii, but other places. I mean,
Is that for musical reasons, like the shape of the language, or is that for like translation?
okay, it really depends on who's doing the translation. If you have a good translator, they will look at the Japanese. Japanese is a very syllabic language. I mean, so long as you're matching that up and you're making sense of the words, the other thing then turns into the actor's job, because the way that I learned how to play on many of these traditional parts was by listening to actual recordings of the professional kabuki actors in Tokyo. So I would learn the script in Japanese first, then the English script would come out, and we'd try to get as close as we could, but still, and here's the important thing, if you're using English, you've got to make sense. And, you know, it's just like any other acting thing. You have to feel it here and project it. You are the character, so you have to become that character. The stylization, in my mind, makes this particular acting style very exciting and very strong. I saw my first kabuki play in English at the University of Hawaii when I was a senior in high school. And that moment actually changed my life, because I was so impressed by what I was hearing and seeing that, it just drew me in. And basically, I went from what I thought was going to be a career in marine biology to
Because one thing I noticed from your demonstration was you did one passage book in Japanese and English.
Yes.
And doing it in Japanese, your mouth, your vowels, it's all very open and extended. And English has a lot of words that close off with
Right.
consonants and
Mm,
you
mm.
know, stuff like that. So it seems like the presentation of it seems like it would be very.
But I ask you, how did the two examples sound? I mean, was it close to, I mean, the English, was it close to what you were hearing in Japanese? I said.
The English was very staccato. It was very like punctuated. The Japanese is very like the words you were using was I am damned, but in
Okay.
Japanese it was very like
Darakusta.
it was wailing. It was
Well, as I say, this is where the the man. Okay. The man is basically realizing that he is now in lust with this person, and all of his esoteric teachings and everything are going to go out the window, because he's now becoming a mortal person rather than being this mighty, strong priest sort of thing.
performing in English. While you were at Hawaii, had the rotation, also Chinese.
Yes.
And so forth. Did you participate in the Chinese theater?
I did. This was pre-Elizabeth Wickman's time, though. We did a production that I was involved with a Jinju. That was the White Snake, and I played the role of Fahai. So. Yes. Now, interesting story on that one. I think Elizabeth, once she came in, really, because she was able to bring these artists over from the People's Republic and whatnot, it really made a difference in the teaching. Now, what happened when I was playing the role of Fahai was that we had a teacher come in to work with us vocally, but she was like, belonged to some, I'm going to use the term, it was like a ladies' club that gets together to sing the arias. And unfortunately, what happened was that the female characters, the female cast members, could not quite achieve that sound. And all of a sudden, the musicians decided they were going to lower the pitch, which then threw my thing off completely. So it was like I was having to sing in this almost like a bass thing. So I mean, Fahai doesn't sing, as high as the younger characters do. But yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, and then also, as I say, being at the University of Hawaii when I was there, it was I was studying Jinju, I was studying Kabuki, Kyogen, a little bit of Bunraku. Some kathakali from southern India, so I got exposed to an awful lot of stuff, and I got to say we were lucky because they were at that time where they were bringing the teachers over and in, and so it was an incredible experience while I was there.
I got to see a dress rehearsal of one of the Kabuki plays there.
Oh, which one?
I forget the title, and it was not right, which I think would put a lot of stress on the students to be able to perform like you.
Okay. Well, we've. That's for another conversation, I guess. Yeah, I do think that in some respects the Kabuki program at UH, I mean, they're still doing it, and I give them all credit for keeping it going. But my point of view is that something was lost in the preparing the students for the vocalization. They're doing the style, but the problem is that that core of the character is not strong. So the last Kabuki play that I saw, there was this production of Benten Kozo that was done maybe 2 years ago now. And again, stylistically, yeah. They had a Kabuki actor from Japan helping them with the kata and all of that. But the voice, that's the thing that I was so disappointed by.
Unfortunately, there's not time for more questions, but there's going to be an amazing reception after the concert, and I think you'll be able to ask things then. We need to give our musicians and dancers, artists a chance to have a little break. Please join me in a big round of applause again. Thank you all so much. The concert begins in half an hour, just right across the hall.